The Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Glory to you, O Lord. When Jesus looked up and saw some wealthy people putting their offerings into the treasury, he noticed a poor widow putting in 2 small coins. He said, "I tell you truly, this poor widow put in more than all the rest. For the others have all made offerings from their surplus wealth, but she from her poverty has offered her whole livelihood." The Gospel of the Lord. I think there was a time, I know there was a time, that pastors or parishes would put the amounts of people's donations in the parish bulletin. Should we do that? That'd be a good idea. We could really embarrass a lot of people. In fact, I was born I was born very close to my mother, who was at Mount Carmel Hospital at the time, but they were still living at my grandmother's house. And so we moved from Dearborn to Detroit when I was 9 months old. But so I have a history book from Dearborn of St. Alphonsus Parish. And I don't know if it was my grandfather, I'm sure it was probably his grandfather, who donated the land for the parish. So in the history of the parish, it's over 100 years, and they have all the listings, not only of how much people gave, but, the altar sodality and all of those, and my grandmother's name, and she gave like 3 candles, a lace table, a cloth for the table, and like 3 other things. Like all the details, And there's been several John Espers through the course of the years. Imagine that. And they even put in the names of the kids and the number of days they missed school. You had to behave in them days, because if you didn't, it'd be in print. Now if I were to tell you what I made, in fact, it was on YouTube the other day, I was a little surprised. There's a lot more Catholic things, and I really, if you click on a certain subject, that subject is going to come up like forever. So I click on, there's something on the Pope, this and that. So all I get now is religion stuff, And there's a lot of Catholic things there. And they said, well, how much does a Catholic priest make? Well, generally, it varies from the diocese. Why did I get into all this? It varies from the diocese, and generally, a priest generally makes about $32,000, maybe $35,000, cash money as it's not really a stipend. It's called compensation. And then, probably another $20,000 or $25,000 in housing, health, and car insurance. So I'm doing okay. But if I were to tell you how much I gave to the poor, you might really be impressed. So should we go around and have everybody say how much they give? No one ever come to church again. So why does Jesus point out this woman, and how did she have the nerve to walk up there and throw in 2 cents? Almost always, not always, but most of the time I read the reflection in Word Among Us every day. And I've heard this story before because it's been done before, not just this particular story, but this particular one is that there was a very wealthy, I didn't say wealthy, but there was a very superstar athlete in India. And he wanted to make a large donation to Mother Teresa. And he wanted to do it personally, if you haven't read it already. And so he went to India. Well, he was already in India because he was Indian. and he found her at one of her homes for the sick and the dying. And so he approached her and offered, his very generous donation because he was very wealthy, because he was a superstar athlete. And she said, I really don't want your money. What I want is your time. Can you serve the needy and the sick? He had no answer. So why is Jesus so impressed about the woman? Well, it's obvious, really, because she gave out of her very want, her need. She probably shouldn't have given that money. Now, believe it or not, in those days, she would have had enough money in those 2 little cents to eat for a couple of days. Obviously, she trusted God. And maybe more to the point I think that Jesus was making was that she loved God above herself, more than herself. So she gave out of love all she had to God, obviously trusting God. The wealthy that Jesus watched put in large amounts could have given more, but they chose what they felt was a reasonable amount, but it really probably didn't affect them at all. The money I give, and I do try to be generous, but it doesn't really affect me. I mean, I don't really give from my want. But I do try to give sincerely. So it's going to be a tenseful question, right? But it's not always about the money, as J.P. McCarthy used to say with Jack Morris. I tell this story all the time. I don't know why. It's not the money. It's the amount. Well, it's not the amount either. And Mother Teresa would do that kind of thing regularly. I don't need your money. I don't need this or that or the other. I need you. I need your prayer. I need your hands. I need your time. How did the widow get that way? Probably her dependence on God. I mean, now we'd say, well, 2 cents, who cares? Go ahead, put it in. I can't do anything with it. She gave it because she loved God more than she loved herself. It reminds me of the story of the widow at Zarephath. Now, why is this reading here? We just had this reading a couple of weeks ago, 3 maybe. Well, I think it's here now as we're on the cusp of Advent to be prepared, so that we're attentive to what we profess yesterday, Feast of Christ the King, of who we are in Christ and who Christ is in us. So the widow of Zarephath, a Gentile and not a believer in the God of Yahweh, but in her desperation or hope or fear or wisdom, she trusted Elijah. And so she, with her last oil and flour, made him a cake of bread and brought him a little water. And God fulfilled the promise that for a year, or was it 3 years? I think it was a year, that flour and water, flour and oil and flour, I don't bake much, never ran out. I haven't said it for a while, but I learned this when I was in the seminary, and it is true. I don't recall who it was that said it, that as generous as anybody could be from their wealth, and we call it charity. But there's no real good expression, adjective for any of it really, but if we have a disproportionate amount of surplus money or goods or time, is it really charity? The reality is it's justice. Because if we have disproportionately more than we need, and there's people in our awareness that have nothing or little, then you can't really call it charity because it's justice. I like the psalm. I like the psalm response. I think it reflects the woman quite nicely. Lord, this is the people that longs to see your face. I probably wouldn't use this same kind of reflection on CSA Sunday, try to get people to give more money. You kind of, Catholic guilt wouldn't work. Are you and am I the people that longs to see God's face? The woman was, and she offered what she had, herself. That's what God wanted, and that's what Mother Teresa asked for. Advent's coming. We can practice.